Welcome to our special Super Bowl 58 preview show on Next Man Up. We will break down all storylines surrounding the big game, make our official NFL honors predictions, and discuss everything NFL around the league. It's Chris, Johnny P, Nicky G, and I'm Tony Joseph on Next Man Up, and it all starts now.
Don't ever look back on the world closing in. Be on the attack with your wings on the wind. All the things will begin. And it's sweet, sweet, sweet victory. Yeah. And it's ours for the taking. It's ours for the fight.
All right, guys, I got to be honest. Ever since we got to Super Bowl Super Bowl 50, I'm 8 years in after that, and I still am not entirely grasping the Roman numerals.
I'm glad you brought that up because I'm like kind of over the Roman numerals thing too. I think it looks cool. Don't get me wrong, like the logos that they've been making throughout the years, but I'm over the Roman numerals. So we're on 54, right?
58.
58. See, like
4 years in the
right.
past.
this is what I'm saying. Like I'm so
no
confused.
idea. I
Yeah.
was like, is it 57? Oh, that was last year. Huh?
It's almost like they should just pull Vince McMahon after they hit WrestleMania 30 and stop numbering the WrestleManias until they just did that this year with 40 now. They should just keep calling it Super Bowl each year and let the fans keep track of what number it is.
Just do what the iPhone does. Just Super Bowl, 24, and this, or do what the Android does that.
Super Bowl
Galaxy
58S.
Galaxy S24 to match the year. So Super Bowl just be SB24, and the next year be SB25.
We're only 2 minutes into the show, and I got the Super Bowl wrong. I said Super Bowl 54. I mean, it just goes to show that the Roman numerals aren't working.
It's hard.
It
It's
is.
antiquated.
It's challenging.
We're not in ancient Rome anymore. It's it's the
I
year
had the X's
2024.
down. X's were easy. I could read the Roman
were.
numerals up until
Yeah.
50. And
And
then
what
when
was
it was
it,
50,
XL for
it would have just
40?
been Super Bowl L. And they said, we can't do L. So that was the one year they didn't do Roman numerals.
Also, let's take it.
Cool.
Let's take it back to our schooling for a second. I feel like our schooling did not prepare us appropriately to learn Roman numerals. Like I don't remember barely learning about Roman numerals. Also, why do I
I
need
only
to know
remember X,
Roman
V, and
numerals?
I. Those are the
Yeah.
only ones I remember. I
Yeah.
didn't even know there was L's. There's M's and C's somewhere
There's
in there. I don't know.
M's?
There's M's. I think
Oh,
that means
jeez.
100. Wait until we get to Super Bowl
Our
100 and they throw M's
children
out there.
are going to be like reading the Super Bowl.
Or C's. I don't even know.
I'm
Yeah.
sad enough as it is. We only have one football game left, and now you're asking me to learn Roman numerals. I mean, there's just so much going on.
Before Nicky gets insulted, there's only one American football game left because he'll yell at us that we have
Sorry.
Canadian football to look forward to.
I mean, that doesn't happen. For free agency starts next week on Valentine's Day. It doesn't the season doesn't happen for another 4 months. But I mean, next month we also have the UFL returning, and also arena football is coming back in April this year. Fun fact.
You know what? If you really want the football, you can pretty much watch it all year round. But
can
the
find it.
NFL experience is still the best to me. Just throwing it out there. I mean, I got nothing against to see if any of those leagues, but like obviously NFL's the best. You can admit that, right? Nicky?
It's
all about
been
the
top
shield.
tier for a long time. So
Yeah, no doubt. So obviously this is the biggest game in all of the NFL season. It's the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. The
you sure last
49ers
weekend wasn't the biggest game of the whole season?
What game was that?
Pro Bowl? Talking about the Pro Bowl?
The Pro Bowl games. That was a series of
The
games.
games. Yeah.
The game.
All
Pro
right,
Bowl
yeah,
field day.
Well, let's acknowledge the Pro Bowl before we get into the serious stuff. I like the skills competition, but I don't care for like a flag football game. I don't need to watch that. I liked watching Derrick Henry throw dodgeballs. That was something to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun seeing grown men have, field day like we would have back in second grade. But it's not what it used to be. Back in the day, you'd actually have guys like Sean Taylor would literally spear tackle someone. And
Yeah.
it was
I didn't think that
awesome
was
to
very
watch.
no disrespect to Taylor. I didn't think that was very cool. It was, he,
No,
like, killed
it
the
was,
guy.
Pro Bowl,
but
It was
it was always like something where you'd see the best of the best play against each other. You look at the products that all the leagues put out. Baseball probably has the best one because, and you think about it, which leagues have the least risk of injury versus most risk of injury. When it comes to football, there's probably the most risk of injury. out of them. Hockey players are just a different breed, and they're all crazy. So I mean, there's probably just about as
But it's
much of
not
a
hockey.
risk of it.
They're not
It's
hitting.
not
They're not
hockey,
playing. Yeah, it's completely different.
but
I'll
it
say that
it
hockey-
is more fun to watch
It
than the
is.
Pro Bowl was, just because whenever they're out on the ice, the atmosphere of a hockey game is just unmatched, if you ask me, in general. So I mean, when it comes to the Pro Bowl, it was always a watered down product. But baseball is the best one because it feels just like a baseball game. It really does. Basketball just becomes a showy thing. Pro Bowl has just become this field day because no one was playing in it, because everyone didn't want to get hurt. They didn't want to risk their big contracts and everything like that. So it's fun. They found a way to get guys out there and put content out there and do these different things. It's the most accurate passer, quote unquote, by everyone dubbed, was Tua Tagovailoa, and he absolutely pooped the
He
bed
couldn't
when
do
it
it.
came to the passing
It's a different
competition, which is
thing.
funny.
Mhm.
Like Baker, I thought Baker looked sharp in the pass precision passing. It's I think I saw a clip one time of Phil Rivers at a football camp, and some child destroyed him in the tire, like throwing footballs through tires, and he couldn't get a single one. I think it comes down to arm angle, but at the same time, like that it does not actually say anything about the type of quarterback you are. You have to be able to just get it to your receivers. So I enjoy this, but that I agree is interesting. Like I like the skills competition aspect of it. That's about it, though. They just need to have it on a piece of paper, like you're a pro.
Yeah, I think we can just chalk it back to the days where Sean Taylor was spear hunting, the Buffalo Bills punter in the Pro Bowl in Hawaii.
that was-
Like
it was a
I miss,
punter.
I
Bring it
miss
back to
those
Hawaii,
days.
man. Just do that. Start with
So
that.
I know like the Aloha Stadium or wherever they played in Hawaii on the Big Islands. Like I know that stadium is falling apart, but
That's
there was just
true.
something reminiscent about the Pro Bowl game there, and it was a football game. I mean, yes, there was a lack of defense for sure, but most all of the All-Star games, with the exception of Major League Baseball, I mean, there really isn't any defense. And I'm kind of in Nicky's boat. I think the NHL All-Star game, although it's kind of a different format nowadays, is still a good product. And I still think like a lot of the skill is out there and available. I actually think the NHL All-Star game is a lot more enjoyable than professional football that it is
No doubt.
nowadays.
No doubt.
So
I used to really enjoy those summer classics in baseball, but that's changed also. So much money involved in everything. But we're here to talk about the Super Bowl, okay? It's Super Bowl Sunday. We're not here to talk about hockey. Sorry. This is all football. This is the biggest game of the year. Obviously, we have our playoff predictions. Johnny's been wiping the floor with us at 8-6, so we had to change the rules to try and make it possible that he could lose. But he does have a nice cushiony lead there at 8-6. Everybody else is tied at 6-6. So here are the three categories for this week's prediction. We have just flat out who wins. 2, we have the score. All right, and basically we'll go by total. So when you predict your score, you're going to say it. You're going to get a total points number, and that's your number. Please don't be a jerk and pick the same score as somebody else. Don't do that. And then MVP. That'll be the final deciding factor. So obviously we know it's in Vegas. I think the Chiefs are 1.5 point underdogs in this game, which is absurd, but whatever. So looking at it, I'll go first. Who do I think's going to win?
No, I think Johnny should go first since he's our leader at the
So
moment.
you just
but
want to
that's
interrupt
just
my whole
2
train of
cents.
thought and kick it to
Yep,
Johnny.
just-
Okay.
just interrupting.
Go ahead,
I'm
Johnny.
being that guy.
You're right. Johnny should go first. Go ahead.
I might be one of the few people around the country that is going to bet against Mr. Mahomes. 16 of the last 19 Super Bowl winners, guys, have worn white jerseys. San Francisco is wearing white on Sunday.
There you go.
I just have a hunch. I have this weird feeling that this is San Francisco's year. This is their time to avenge the Super Bowl loss from Super Bowl 54, I believe, which was 4 seasons ago.
There it is.
Got you guys there. I'm back. There we go. I have San Francisco in a really close one. I have them winning 28-27. So Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes will still cover. We'll still cover that spread. I believe last time I checked, it was 2.
That would be 55 is your total points.
Yes,
55.
and 55 would be that number. So that's kind of my prediction. We can get a little bit more into it, but I have the Niners squeaking out a real close one.
I like it, Johnny. All right, Nicky, what do you got?
I am going to side with Johnny on this one
Oh my
and
gosh.
root for the 49ers in this. I think out of this game, it's going to come down to a last possession, and I believe that either field goal or touchdown. I'm going with a final score of math is hard, 51. 49ers winning 27-24 over the Chiefs. And we also had MVP, correct?
Yes. Oh yeah, Johnny.
Yes.
Who's your MVP? You,
Oh.
Nicky, give me that, and then we'll go back to Johnny. Sorry.
I think that Christian McCaffrey is going to win Super Bowl MVP for this one.
Okay. Thank you, Johnny. I
I-
didn't get your MVP. Sorry.
Brock Purdy. Brock
Purdy.
Purdy for MVP.
I like it. All right. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you guys. I really want to see the Niners win. I mean, I'm going to be hoping the Niners win. However, I cannot pick against the Kansas City Chiefs as much as it pains me to say it. You know, we see them time and time again. As we said last week, the week before that, it feels like the Patriots dynasty all over again, where death taxes, Mahomes and the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl, the AFC Championship game. That's how it feels. Unless they show me a reason to not pick them, I'm going to pick the Chiefs. That's really how it feels. Mahomes just is different when it comes to the postseason, and that's just he's proven that time and time again. They have that connection, whether it's him and Kelsey. Reed knows how to coach in these games. He's shown it. They have the different game plans. Their defense has shown up in these moments these last few weeks, especially last week, the way they contain Lamar. I don't know if I can trust Brock Purdy when it comes to the Super Bowl yet. I mean, Christian McCaffrey is one of the best players in the NFL, if not the best player in the NFL. He's definitely a difference maker. If the Niners do win, that would have been my pick for MVP. I would be with Nicky on that, but I will say that if I'm a betting man, which all of you I believe know at this point that I am, I would say that I would definitely pick the Chiefs at this one. I'm going Chiefs. It's going to be, I say 31-21 Chiefs. I can't pick against Mahomes and the Chiefs until they give me a reason not to pick them. That's really all it comes down to.
So 52
and
total points.
52 points, and I'll give it to Mahomes again as MVP, because when it comes to it, you know, it's Mahomes and everyone else on the team. That's really what it is, and he's going to get it to the guys that he has to get it to.
So you're pulling
we all have the
jeopardy
over.
on me and picking 1 point more than I do.
Yeah.
What's the over/under, Johnny?
It's 47.5 on DraftKings right now. So.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what? I'll be that guy. I'm going to go
Life's
with
too
the
short
under.
to bet the under. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm going to entirely go the other way. I think it's going to be the under. I just think it's going to be not because I'm betting it one way or the other. I just think this might be a little bit more of a defensive game than people are giving credit for. Obviously, the 49ers defense has not looked strong in the postseason, but throughout the regular season, it was fantastic. And the Chiefs defense under Spags has gotten better in the postseason. So I think it's possible with the extra week, Shanahan, and the preparation, you could see some more defensive play. So I'm surprised we have two 49ers picks. I'm going to be that guy and pick the 49ers as well. I'm surprised that it's 3 out of 4 on our show, but that's besides the point. I just feel like Brock Purdy seriously being overlooked. I can't help but root for the underdog in this scenario. Obviously, he's done very, very well in the regular season, had some iffy moments in the postseason, but yet here they are. They definitely have a more complete roster. That's why they're favored by 1.5 points. Shanahan, he needs to overcome that 28-3 debacle against the Patriots. This is their chance. In his case, it's his second chance. Obviously, he was the offensive coordinator at that time. I like the 49ers to win this game 23-20 in a more defensive struggle. And I like it coming down to a last-minute field goal. And I like the MVP going to a Mr. George Kittle.
George Kittle, honorary bear. Love it. Love it.
I can't believe I'm
Honorary
actually the
bear.
only
Love
one
it.
picking the Chiefs in this one. I am actually very surprised.
I thought
What?
at least we would be split down the middle. if
I did
anything.
too. What really scares me off of the Chiefs is just how much the public loves the Chiefs in this game. Everybody and their mothers know that, like, the safe thing to do is back Patrick Mahomes in this game. And it makes sense, right? It really does. that's when I want to lean the other way. I don't want to do the thing that everybody else is doing. That's why I like the Chiefs still covering, but losing by one. So,
As I
you
said,
know,
I do want the Niners to win.
oh, there's no question. I know that.
I'm very much on Team Niners.
I do.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. I mean, I'm going to be sitting in my basement on Sunday saying, let's go Niners. I'm even going to put my Sam Darnold jersey on because guess what? He's the only quarterback from that draft to make it to a Super Bowl, albeit as a backup quarterback. But he will be there, so I will be showing my support in that way. But it's, you know what I mean? It's just like, as I said, I can't pick against Mahomes in these sort of games just because. And Anthony, you said, you look at who has the best defense, but who's had the best defense the last few weeks? In my eyes, that's been the Chiefs. So I mean, the Niners defense has it. They've been flawed. I mean, they came up big at the end of the Packers game. They almost lost the Packers game. It was tight against Detroit. They almost lost the Detroit game. So I mean, they were almost bend don't break the last couple weeks. If anyone's going to make that defense break, it's gonna be Patrick Mahomes. He's always surrounded by it, and I will give him a lot of credit that he is able to tune it out and still perform at the level he performs at.
Yep. Very well said. Very well said. And honestly, no matter what happens in this game, I think it's ultimately going to come down to coaching. We're going to see just how good of a coach Kyle Shanahan truly is against Andy Reid, what could be potentially Andy Reid's last game.
So obviously, there's a whole week before the Super Bowl. There's a ton of gossip. There's just every media person is looking for every possible excuse to create a side story. In the case of the Chiefs, they already have everything going on with Mahomes' father. They have everything going on with the Swifties. In the case of the 49ers, it's not really much of a story, but we did see Mr. Shanahan slurring some words during his interview. Some people are accusing him of perhaps being under the influence, but it doesn't seem like there's any proof, so I don't really want to make that claim. But what are you guys' thoughts on the Super Bowl gossip before the game? Because that can always kind of derail things.
I mean, the Cam Newton fluff is just fluff. I mean, there's a reason why we have this lead up, this build up to the Super Bowl, and this is what we do because we have nothing to talk about leading up to the game. It's just fluff. It's drama. It's a bunch of bullshit that doesn't mean anything, really. It's unfortunate with Patrick Mahomes' dad, but I don't think that has anything to do with how Mahomes is going to play on Sunday. Could be a distraction, but like we talked about earlier in the show, he will find a way to look past it and continue on.
I mean, obviously, we all know Mahomes is Mahomes, and there's this huge unnecessary comparison between him and Purdy. Purdy's this quote-unquote game manager. What are you guys' thoughts on all that? Obviously, there's a lot of fluff there, and I don't really know what else Purdy is supposed to do other than succeed with the roster that he is given.
The whole Purdy thing, it kind of puzzles me. I mean, still, what a great story, Mr. Irrelevant. And look at the weapons, look at the offense, look at the coaching that's been around him in his time in San Francisco. I mean, can we just give this guy a pat on the back? Why do we have to hate on him? I hate this narrative that he's a game manager. Who cares? The guy is in the Super Bowl. The guy helps lead the San Francisco offense into one of the perennial units in the league. I mean, can we just pat him on the back for a second? Why do we have to jump down his throat trying to compare him to, he's not Patrick Mahomes. Who cares? No one is Patrick Mahomes. Let's give Brock Purdy a little bit of credit here for what he's done with San Francisco. And, he's better than Garoppolo, in my opinion. And he says less, and he doesn't need to do much. He just needs to go out there and manage the game because San Francisco has a great roster. So let Brock Purdy be Brock Purdy. He doesn't need to be an elite guy, let him do what he does best. I don't understand this narrative of he needs to be better than people perceive him to be. Let him just be what he's been, and the Niners will be fine. They'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, with quarterback with Purdy, I mean, I think with the whole game manager thing, you can say one way, yeah, it's a knock on people, but also I don't think it's a bad thing that someone is categorized as a game manager because then that you're just executing the game plan as possible in as an effective manner as you can. And Brock Purdy has shown that he's done a great job at that this year. Now, is Brock Purdy an elite quarterback right now? maybe this year he has been for the NFC, but overall, I don't think he's there yet. I think he's shown that he's good to very good. He could be an elite quarterback at some point. Cam Newton was a very good quarterback even at his prime. I don't think that Cam Newton was an elite quarterback himself, and obviously he wasn't saying that either way. But he did.
He did win an MVP. Just remember that.
Regardless of what Cam Newton says, I mean, for the quarterbacks in this game, while Brock Purdy has had himself a great year, and yes, he deserves the recognition that he's gotten, I got to give it to Mahomes in this one. He's been there before multiple times. He knows the experience of what it takes to win and succeed in the Super Bowl, so I got to give the edge to Mahomes on this one in terms of quarterbacks.
I mean, the Shanahan system has always been noted as like very quarterback friendly. You just kind of plug anyone in there and they can succeed in it. Granted, we saw, they ran out of quarterbacks in the NFC Championship last year, letting the Eagles win it. But I think back to the Christmas Day game this year against the Ravens, right? Purdy started that game. He looked terrible. He did not look good at all. Sam Darnold comes in. He looked even better than Purdy did. And the drive he comes in on, they score a touchdown. They were scoreless until he went in. So, so the game manager thing is good to a point. And I mean, there's only 32 teams, only 32 guys get to start every week. So think about it that way. And Purdy even said, he's like, if he wants to knock me, that's fine. He's like, but guess what? There's 90 guys on rosters and he's not one of them. But yeah, but I mean, I think it ultimately comes down to the system definitely favors him for sure. And he definitely has taken it to heart and has learned it very well.
And then you could also consider running game. Obviously, McCaffrey, we know, is one of the best running backs in the NFL, if not the best. But Pacheco is no bum. Obviously, the Chiefs are going to want to run the football if they want to win this game.
It would not surprise me if Pacheco has the better day compared to McCaffrey. I think if the Chiefs are to win this game, they're going to have to run the ball and run it effectively. And I could see Pacheco having close to 20 attempts rushing the ball. I really do. I think McCaffrey, the little screen passes here and there, running the ball, I mean, yeah, he does it all. But Pacheco, when he gets going and they get like a little bit of momentum with him, he easily could have the better day than McCaffrey. So I don't know why I'm just kind of leaning towards Pacheco here. Probably not the hottest take, but yeah, I'm going with Pacheco.
And if you look at the receiving core, both teams, world-class tight ends, but really good wide receivers on San Francisco. Rice is solid on Kansas City, but after that, it's Hardman. I wouldn't say they have nearly as much to fear as say Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk on the San Francisco side.
We look at what the Chiefs have gone through this year with their receivers. Yes, Travis Kelce is their best target, but it's taken a long time for the rest of the receiving core to even try and give Mahomes some more support in that aspect of the game. It's been a down year for them receiving, absolutely. Kadarius Toney, the most glaring offender on that, I think. But I think the 49ers just have a better top three and a better overall receiving core. And Brock Purdy is going to have a much better time in this game for the passing side of the ball than Patrick Mahomes, I think.
And then, of course, there's coaching. Are these not two of the best coaches in the NFL? I mean, between Reid and Shanahan, who do you think has the edge?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you're asking who's under more pressure, Shanahan's definitely under more pressure because he hasn't gotten it done yet, and Reid's proven that he can on multiple occasions. It's Reid has shown us multiple times that he can do it. Reid has done it time and time again. He's won multiple Super Bowls with Kansas City. He's gotten to the Super Bowl with two teams, getting there with the Eagles as well. Shanahan's gotten there, I think, once and lost to Reid. We've seen them go head to head, and Reid came out on top. Obviously, very different teams 4 years later. But when you look at it, I mean, it's Andy Reid. He's the S tier of coaches. It was him and Belichick were top tier, and then Shanahan was kind of right below them, and it still is that way in my eyes. I think Andy Reid is the best coach in the league. And then when it comes to also just like coordinators wise, I mean, we've talked about it where Spags has looked like he's had the best defensive game plans out of anyone in the postseason. So if he puts together a good game plan to go against all those weapons on San Francisco, look out.
I think Harrison Butker is a great kicker, and I think Chris Jones and a couple other guys on Kansas City's defense are good players, but 49ers have players on every level. Bosa, Fred Warner, their secondary. I mean, there's guys all over that are ready to make plays. And I know we've seen the 49ers give up a lot of points the last couple of weeks to the Packers, to the Lions. I'd like to think that they're able to do a little bit better job of containing those big plays and making the Chiefs work for their yardage on Sunday. So although we all like the over, and I think both teams are going to score a lot on Sunday, I got to give it to San Francisco on paper. I mean, their defense is just stacked. I will say I think Butker is the better kicker than rookie Jake Moody, but I still think Jake Moody is a solid kicker. I mean, he's not. It's not like he's the rookie kicker from Green Bay, Carlson. I mean, I think he's much more reliable and stable than Carlson.
NFL honors are upon us. Obviously, there's a ton of categories. I'd like to go through them all with you, and I want to get everybody's takes on all the different categories. We've got the AP Defensive Player of the Year.
I think Myles Garrett is going to win the award just based on the stats alone, because that's the nature of where things are at when we announce these kinds of awards these years. But who do I think actually makes the most difference to their team? 100% Max Crosby. That Raiders defense is not the same without him. They wouldn't be the same if he was on another team or if he was injured. I'm 100% with you. I think the award's going to go to Garrett, but if I had my say in it, it would go to Crosby.
I gotta say, for a guy who I think would probably win the award and is going to be my pick for this one, is going to be Micah Parsons. With how he's been ever since he's come into the league, he has gotten himself to being the top linebacker in the entire NFL, I believe. He's been a consistent playmaker for them time and time again, and someone who I think deserves his flowers, and will continue to be one of those big impact players and that top linebacker for a long time coming.
If at the start of the year, I thought it was Micah Parsons' award to lose, but I think he kind of fell off after a few weeks. I mean, I think Myles Garrett had consistent play throughout the entire season, and I think the Jets actually played against every single one of these guys, if I'm not mistaken, and got embarrassed by all of them. They didn't play against TJ Watt, but I mean, he's TJ Watt. He is who we thought he was. But just knowing how I saw the Jets play against him, I mean, it's Garrett. I mean, he just makes everyone look silly that he plays against. It's just like he's out there. He's basically like pretending to dribble a basketball between his legs because it's just gotten the game's almost too easy for him at this point. And he just makes so many good offensive tackles look silly from his defensive end position. And would their defense still be good without him? Yes, but there is still a big drop off. If you take him out of their defense, they are still not the same defense because he is that much of a special player. Right? It's definitely, in my eyes, it's still Myles Garrett. Max Crosby, he will have his chance at some point, and it will be his award one day, I believe, because he is that good of a player. And for a fourth round pick, nonetheless, to get up there at some point, I think it's Myles Garrett's.
Got the AP Offensive Player of the Year.
I got to go with McCaffrey, just based on touchdowns alone, because everybody that watches football likes touchdowns, and he scored the most of them. So Christian McCaffrey is my guy. I think Puka Nacua, stats-wise, throughout the whole season, has shown just enough to warrant this discussion that he really should be Offensive Rookie of the Year. War is probably going to go to C.J. Stroud because he's the quarterback and the lore and the story behind it, and I get it. But Puka Nacua broke several rookie receiving records. The guy was an absolute stud. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua would be my guy.
I will backpack on you two as well. I think it's the same thing. C.J. Stroud over Puka Nacua, but by a very slim margin. I mean, there's always the what if this winds up being they can't choose between either two and they just make them both offensive rookies of the year. But obviously, I don't see that happening. But if there was ever a season to have that result for that award, I think this would be the season to do it based on how both Stroud and Nakua have done. But I think Stroud edges out Nakua in the end.
Especially because nowadays they have you could vote, your number one, number two, number three, number four picks, and there's kind of like a point system based on how many first vote you get, second vote you get. So, I mean, there could be a situation where they do get tied with first place votes, second place votes, sort of thing. So you never know, it might happen. I think you guys are right. I think it will go to Stroud in the end, but I think that's someone that we haven't talked about enough when it comes to the rookies is Sam Laporta. I mean, the guy was the best tight end in the entire league this year. Even better than Travis Kelce, even better than George Kittle, even better than Mark. Like, he was better than every other tight end in this league. He ended the season as the fantasy tight end one, for whatever that's worth. I mean, that is unheard of as a rookie tight end in an offense that has guys like Jahmyr Gibbs that are getting all these points and has receivers like Amon-Ra St. Brown. You have a tight end getting these receptions. So I think he didn't get as much credit because the other guys that were on the offense, so he didn't get a chance to shine as much as the other guys. But I want to give Sam Laporta, he is my offensive rookie of the year personally, but it's going to wind up being CJ Stroud in the end because, as you said, he's the quarterback. It's the sexy pick, and that's what it's going to wind up being.
Honestly, this whole list, and I think this is probably one of the more tough decisions to make, the defensive rookie of the year. I mean, honestly, I don't think any specific guy, I mean, no discredit to any of them, really specifically stood out to me more than Devon Witherspoon. I think Seattle has a stud and a defensive back and something to build off of for many, many years to come. I'm not trying to put any bias on here, but Joey Porter Jr., I think he's just a name on there just because his dad once played for the Steelers. Tyreek Stevenson, a rookie of the Bears, had just as good of stats, if not better, than Joey Porter Jr. So I feel like the defensive rookie of the year list, same thing with Jalen Carter. It's just his name. I mean, he had good stats, but nothing outstanding. Will Anderson, same thing. So if I had to give a nod to anyone specifically, it would be Witherspoon.
Yeah, and for me, I'm going to go with Witherspoon too. Obviously, you guys know I said way at the beginning of the season, if he had been healthy this entire year, I would be going with Christian Gonzalez for that. It stinks that his season got cut short, but with Witherspoon, like you guys have said, with how he's been this year, and even with that impact defensive back for the Seahawks, it doesn't seem like they've really had that much for an impact defensive back since the days of the Legion of Boom. So I'd say that he kind of harkens back to that where they have he's the start. He could be the start of being that first guy of maybe more to come of having a group of defensive backs who can be those impact players for the secondary on the Seahawks defense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually going to go against you guys on this one, and the Seahawks fans are going to be up in arms when they don't win Rookie of the Year for the second year in a row because they wanted Tariq Woolen to get it last year. So I mean, they have their two Legion of Boom members already with Tariq Woolen and Devin Witherspoon. I mean, I think Witherspoon is definitely getting consideration for it, but I think it'll wind up going to Will Anderson, and we will have a repeat of last year where we have this offensive and defensive Rookie of the Year being on the same team. I mean, kid had 7 sacks for his team. I mean, that's a pretty high sack total for a especially for a rookie defensive end. He played at a very high level in a defense that wasn't the strongest unit, but he definitely showed out on that team.
Got the AP Comeback Player of the Year.
I was gonna say, let's remove DeMar Hamlin from this right now. My pick would be Baker Mayfield. I'm kind of confused why Tua is on here because Tua, although with the injuries last year, performed pretty well. Matthew Stafford, same thing, performed pretty well. Joe Flacco, great story, love the story, but the body of work. I'm talking about a whole season's of work. I mean, Joe Flacco really wasn't on the Browns for the whole season, so I can't really give the nod to him. What Baker Mayfield has shown this year, coming back and being on so many different teams with different coordinators, different coaches, and to perform like he did this year when everyone was like, Baker Mayfield's not going to do crap for the Buccaneers. I mean, it's a testament to just how good of a player he is. And if I had to take my pick, it would be Baker Mayfield, 100%. If you remove Damar Hamlin away from the situation, so Baker Mayfield's my guy.
And with me, I'll say it's the same as the other two. Baker Mayfield, absolutely. I think it's something within he's the only player who's had gone through 8 head coaches within his first however many years to start off his NFL career. So that alone, a big thing. And then how many teams he played for last year, as we've brought up too. But yeah, he's played himself to earning a nice contract, I think, either from Tampa or from whoever else is going to pick him up. So absolutely, Baker Mayfield, definitely give him the nod for this one.
I'm protesting this award because Brees Hall is not a finalist. I mean, he should be there above Flacco. He should be there above Tua. He should be there above Stafford. I mean, think about it. The guy tore his ACL week 5 last year, came back, put up 1,500 all-purpose yards this year. He was top 5. He had 1,500 all-purpose yards receiving and rushing. He was one of the top 5 running backs in the league this year. He put up numbers that people didn't think he would be ready for week number 1. Guess what? He had a 75-yard run the first week. So you mean to tell me that someone like that doesn't deserve a comeback player of the year nomination? Give me a break. I mean, and the impact, and he was the best player on their offense this year. Granted, they were the 32nd ranked offense this year. They weren't good, but he was. He was the lone bright point in that offense.
I think the Jets' failures on offense as a unit contributed to him not being a finalist. Honestly, I think the Jets failed him more than he,
which is really unfortunate because I mean, Damar Hamlin is going to win this award the second that he stepped foot on the football field. Damar Hamlin's going to win this award. He should be honored in some way. We get it. We understand the story. No one's downplaying the severity of the story. No one's downplaying the severity of the situation. But when it comes to comeback player of the year, come back from adversity. Joe Flacco, what'd you come back from? I mean, great story. You played for a month. I mean, if he came back in September and started playing, guess what? He probably would have been out by December. So Stafford played up until like week 10 last year. I mean, you could put him on. Sure, he deserves to be on the list. Tua played almost the entire season. He was out with the concussions left and right, came back, but he still played at a high level last year, as you guys said. I mean, I'd put Brees Hall up there against almost any of these guys to be on this list. But I mean, Baker bounced around the league last year. He had to fill the shoes of Tom Brady this year. I mean, put that into perspective. And he led them to a division title. And he led them to a division title. I mean, granted, it is a regular season award, so they're not even going to take the postseason into consideration when push comes to shove. But he's probably more deserving of the award due to his play. I mean, Damar Hamlin, he was inactive for I think like more than half the games this season. So, I mean, how is Joe Flacco? What did Joe Flacco came back from the same thing Justin Pugh came back from, and Justin Pugh's not even being considered. So what's the difference? People say Joe Flacco is the second odds-on favorite to win this behind Damar Hamlin. I get why people are saying that, but if you ask me, it's Brees Hall should. The fact that his name's not even on the list, this is probably the biggest glaring omission of any of these awards.
We got the AP Coach of the Year.
Sorry, I'm so torn between Stefanski and Dan Campbell. I think DeMeco Ryans deserves so much credit for what he did in his first year in Houston, and I don't want to take away from that. I want to give Stefanski a lot of credit too for everything that he dealt with. But Stefanski's been a good coach in this league for a while. The roster might not have always been there for Stefanski, but I've always thought that Stefanski was a good coach, definitely a good offensive coach. I'm going to give the nod to Dan Campbell. I really am. To start where the Lions were and to see where they are now, just steady progress. And Dan Campbell led the Lions to the best season in franchise history. I mean, that alone is consideration enough for me. That is the best Lions team I've ever seen in my lifetime, and I've watched a lot of Lions games. Being Bears fans, they got something going on in Detroit, and they're going to be a problem for a long time under Dan Campbell. So I'm going to give thy nod to Dan Campbell on this one.
Give me the eater of kneecaps, Dan Campbell, for this award. And John said it too. And again, but I think in the end for this, it's gonna come down to a very tight margin. But I think Campbell's gonna come out on top. And again, it's the body of work that he's put in over the past 3 years now, where, like John said, he's brought the Lions up to a contender, and I think he can keep them at that contention spot for a long time coming, depending on however long his tenure in Detroit is. And I think one of the best things about this too is not only does he have the respect of the players, but he also has the respect of the coaches, and he's gotten that whole feeling of respect amongst everybody for each other on that team, regardless of whatever you are, player, coach, staff. He's done a terrific job for them, and you can tell that everybody on that team has bought into what he is conveying to them. So I think Dan Campbell gets this victory.
I mean, I think I'm with you on this one. I think that Harbaugh and Shanahan are just courtesy nominations because they got the 1 seeds. I mean, they're really just on there because of that. I mean, I think the other 3 are really the true finalists. If any of them won it, I would not be surprised. I mean, I want to give D'Amico Ryans really the credit on this one. I mean, he's a first-year head coach with a rookie quarterback, a team that no one expected to really do anything, and won the division. That is, if you ask me, that is what a coach of the year does. I mean, it's similar to what Brian Daboll did last year. He took a team that no one expected to do anything to the playoffs in his first year. So if you compare it that way, I see this could be D'Amico Ryans to win. But then again, Dan Campbell won the NFC North, but we saw the shades of that coming from last year. At the end of the season, and they kind of carried it over to this year. And Stefanski has been a good coach in this league pretty much since he started, and I think he won it in his first or second season whenever they made the playoffs. So there's been consistency with him. I think that D'Amico Ryans really is my pick for this one, just because of it. When I look at this, it should be the team that over exceeded their expectations the most. And in my eyes, that was the Houston Texans and D'Amico Ryans.
The AP Most Valuable Player Award.
I'm just kind of over the redundant, like the quarterback has to win MVP every year. Christian McCaffrey had a special season. And I love Josh Allen, and I'm not trying to take away anything that he did this year or Lamar Jackson. However, I will defend Lamar Jackson a little bit, because I feel like a lot of people don't want to give him credit because he plays with one of the best defenses in the league. But the guy really doesn't have a lot on offense to work with other than a strong running game. So I know they got Beckham, but I understand why people would want to give Lamar the MVP this year. I just don't see how you can not give it to McCaffrey after everything he's done this year. And the guy does it all. I mean, he's not just a running back. I mean, he's one of the best. I mean, but he's just, when he's got the ball in his hand, when he catches the ball, I mean, he is a difference maker. McCaffrey is my guy. I'm sick of always giving these awards to quarterbacks. Like, give it to a running back that's a dying breed. It's a dying position in the NFL. Give it to the dude that is the NFL's running back. Give it to McCaffrey. I think he's so deserving.
Yeah, I got to agree with that too. Absolutely. This is Christian McCaffrey's time with this. You got to give him what's rightfully his, I think. And not only can he run, he can catch, he can throw. He's a multifaceted, multi-tooled player at that position, and one, if not the top, then absolutely one of the top running backs in the entire league. Yeah, it's anyone who doesn't consider him the top. I mean, I think he is top, absolutely. Anyone who doesn't consider him that, then he's right there in top 2 for sure. But absolutely deserves this award, and especially what he's done this year. He's now in his first Super Bowl ever in his career, and expect him to ball out on Sunday too, as he has been all season long.
Yep. I mean, I would love to see McCaffrey get it. I mean, in my eyes, he is the MVP. And, Tony, I know he's going to be your first overall pick next year in our fantasy league, but that's neither here nor there.
He'll pick Tommy Cutlets.
But I mean, I think ultimately I think ultimately it will wind up going to Lamar, because it's just become, it winds up being the quarterback on one of the one seeds. That's just what it happens to turn into. And he did have a very good season. I mean, it was a very strong season for him. It was, he had a much better season through the air than he's had in the past. He still had his very good, strong season on the ground as well. He stayed healthy the entire season, which is, hasn't really been, it's been very hard, especially with, how much he puts his body out there on the line. But I think it's going to wind up being Lamar in the end. As much as I do think McCaffrey is the MVP, I think Lamar will wind up being named the MVP.
And real quick before we're just moving on from this list too, with the list of nominees on this, I would say on this, if we could have adjusted this before they announced the finalists, I would have put Tyreek in over Dak. I would put him in there. I think Dak has had a great year.
Agreed.
But yeah, I think you should have put someone else in. You should have had another variety. That's it.
Guys, it has been such an unbelievable year. Week after week, breaking down our favorite teams. Of course, it was hilarious that all our teams are basically stinky this year, but we had some great times this year. And obviously I want to thank the listeners, the supporters of the show, those that went on to dtrabbithole.com and listened to our shows, those that listened to us on Spotify, those that watched us on YouTube. I can't thank you enough. But most of all, I really want to thank you guys, Johnny, Nicky, Chris. Without you guys and your consistent dedication and us working out scheduling every single week, we wouldn't have had this amazing season. So thank you, as always, from the bottom of my heart. And regarding the future of Next Man Up, we've got some serious draft stuff coming. Obviously, Johnny and his Bears are the number one pick, so there's going to be more stuff there with Bear Necessities. But all our teams are more or less in the mix with top 10 in the draft this year, so I think it's almost inevitable that we have to do some draft discussion.
We can have a whole hour's worth of discussion on what the Bears should do with the number one overall pick. This is one of the most interesting NFL drafts in recent memory, and I'm not just saying that because my team is the forefront of it. I mean, this is a very, very pivotal draft, not just for the Bears, but for so many teams involved. And just how much leverage does one player have? I mean, we can be here for an hour talking about this. I can't wait to get right into it. Usually after the Super Bowl, I go through a little bit of a depression knowing that football is over, but there really is so much to look forward to. The Combine is right around the corner. The draft is 79 days away. Who's counting? Not me. Yeah, I can't wait to see what my Bears do. They're in such a good spot right now, whatever way they decide. So, boys, enjoy the Super Bowl.
Thank you, as always, for your support, and be well.